Good evening and welcome to the second session of Module 2. So, beginning with methodology, the methodology of teaching. It is very closely related to taxonomies.
Taxonomies are a scheme of classification. An educational taxonomy is a classification of educational objectives. Terms used in a framework to classify simple to complex and from concrete to abstract educational goals.
Now, if you've heard of Maslow's need hierarchy, have you?
Yes.
Okay. Ella, Maria.
Yes, I have. That's I think concerning the Maslow is behavior, so concerning affective domain, I think.
That's right. That's right. Affective domain was developed by Plume and Cattrall later, but Maslow's is separate, but they both relate to behavioral needs of a person. So what we know of the needs hierarchy here is that needs to be fulfilled to achieve full potential. There are certain needs that need to be fulfilled. Now, when we talk about academics comes later. A person needs to have certain basic needs fulfilled, post which the academic goals go hand in hand with these needs. And that is when a person reaches the full potential. What this means is, we'll see, in Maslow's words, what a man can be, a man must be. This is self-actualization. That is the fifth level in the hierarchy. These are the 5 levels in the hierarchy. First is the physiological need. That is food, water, shelter, air, sleep. These are the basic needs that a human being needs. Second is safety and security. This is protection, good health, financial security. Then is the love and belonging. Only when the physiological need and safety and security is met, then is when the person looks for love and belonging and develops social needs. So when a child is born, we inadvertently realize that these two needs, physiological and safety and security, are obviously met with the support of the family. And then is when they move on to looking for love and belonging. And once they have love and belonging, that is, they are confident of the support and the love that they get from the family and their loved ones, then is when they develop confidence. That is what comes as esteem, self-esteem. So develop confidence and self-respect for themselves. And once they have this confidence and self-respect, then is when they can achieve the full potential. That is, they work towards self-actualization. When they have reached the full potential, then is when they help others. So basically what this means is, how does it relate to academics is, when the child reaches the third level of the needs hierarchy, that is love and belonging, and the child starts getting acknowledged and respected amongst the near ones, the dear ones, then is when they actually start performing well academically as well. The support and confidence that they get from the love and belonging of the family, that helps them develop a persona which gives them confidence to actually progress and succeed in life. which is why it is correlated to academics. So these are the 5 needs in the hierarchy, which we've already discussed. Then comes the Bloom taxonomy. In Bloom's taxonomy, which was developed by Benjamin Bloom in 1950s, it is basically related to the cognitive domain. The kind of thinking that is developed by an individual is related to the cognitive domain. Higher order thinking skills are more difficult and build on previous lower level thinking skills. Just as we saw in the needs hierarchy, the higher the level in the hierarchy, that is developed on the previous level. That is why it is a hierarchy, because if the basic needs are met, only then will a child grow to the next level. Similarly, in Bloom's taxonomy, there the higher order thinking skills are developed when the basic thinking skills are already developed in the previous level. So when we talk about entry level courses, that is elementary level or primary level courses, students demonstrate remembering, understanding, and applying thinking skills. When we talk about graduate level courses, students demonstrate analyzing, evaluating, and creativity is being portrayed.
Creative.
Yes, they become more creative, and this, along with this, they also have to demonstrate lower order thinking skills as well, because they go in unison with each other. Only the quantity or the priority is to higher order thinking skills at the graduate level, because then is when they can actually demonstrate whatever they have been learning, and now they can create something of their own, innovate something, and demonstrate higher order thinking skills. So this is the Bloom's taxonomy. The basic level is knowledge, that is to remember. You basically recall the relevant knowledge from long-term memory. Next is understand, describe, or explain, making sense of what you have already learned. Next is to apply, use the knowledge gained in new ways. Next is analyze, identify and analyzing ideas, recognizing trends. Synthesis, using old ideas to create new ones. And finally, it's evaluation, assessing theories and evaluating the outcome. To give you an example of this, when we start teaching coding, first, the child is made, or the learner, it can be just anyone who is beginning to learn coding. They are given certain coding statements that you need to remember. Without understanding, you only have to remember those coding statements and just enter them in the coding editor and see the output. This is recalling the knowledge, because the child or the learner does not remember, does not understand. The learner will not understand what is happening. They are only made to work with the code statements. Next comes understanding, is when the learner begins to understand what is happening behind the scene. How is the code getting executed? Next is application. That is when they will apply their own knowledge to create certain kinds of program and analyze what kind of program is going on in the market, what is the need in the market, or probably the current trends, the new kind of apps that are coming up. So the current trend is to develop web apps or to develop mobile apps. So they will analyze how they can implement whatever they have learned and synthesize, that is using old ideas to create new ones. Again, to give you an example, there is an ERP solution wherein there is attendance taken by the teachers in the school, and the attendance is entered into this ERP solution, that is the program. If the child is not present in the school, is absent, then the parents are sent an intimation immediately, using which they can cross-check the absence of the child. Now, this is an old idea. The new one would be to empower the teacher to not to take the attendance manually, rather provide them with a tablet or a mobile app using which they can directly enter the attendance, and the attendance gets uploaded onto the ERP solution automatically, and the rest works in the background. Now, in each and every period when the teacher comes in, they do not have to cross-check manually with the attendance that has been taken by the class teacher or in the previous period or however. So this eliminates a lot of paperwork and workflow and wastage of time when the teacher is trying to teach in the limited period of time. This is synthesis. And then you evaluate the outcome of the new software that has been developed. So this is how it moves from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. How you can innovate and implement what you have learned is the idea of higher order thinking skills. These are a few of the action verbs that are used to describe all the levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So you can check this in the slide share. Why should we have Maslow before Bloom? There are certain human needs that need to be met before the academic learning. It is only at the third level of Maslow's need hierarchy that the Bloom's taxonomy can begin.
How a person develops through Maslow's hierarchy directly impacts
their capacity and attention towards learning, both academic and social emotional learning. So they both go hand in hand, but at the beginning, it is only about the Maslow's needs. And when Bloom's taxonomy and Maslow get together, they actually help a person reach its potential. Then is the affective domain. The affective domain was developed by Bloom and
Krathwohl.
Objectives concerned with interests, attitudes, adjustment, appreciation, and values. It is basically related to internalization, the process whereby a person's affect towards an object passes from a general awareness level to a point where the affect is internalized and consistently guides or controls the person's behavior. This is based on 5 aspects of internalization. They also go in a hierarchy. The first one is receiving. When the person is only receiving information. Second is responding. They start responding to the situation in a committed manner. Third is valuing. Students set guidelines for their behavior. They start accepting values. and give preference to those values that they can internalize. Organization, they develop their own code of conduct and standard of public life in the society. This is where the value conflict and value crisis are resolved. And final is the characterization, that is the act in accordance with the values that have been internalized and forms part of the lifestyle of the individual. This is the highest level of internalization process. And if you look at it, the characterization is what will relate to self-actualization, which will relate to creativity or evaluation in Bloom's taxonomy. The kind of values that you incorporate or the kind of values that you internalize yourself with, and the behavioral change that you see within a person. Those are going to relate to how they think and how they progress in life. How well can they implement what they are learning in life, whether it is academics or it is the social needs. So these all aspects go hand in hand. And why is it important for you as an educator to keep this in mind is because as I spoke about the kinds of courses that you can develop in the first session, I talked about it. When you are trying to create a course for education, that is, you want to educate your learner, look at the holistic development of your learner. Then is when you have to keep in mind that the objectives, goals, and objectives of your course and the learning outcomes are all aligned with these needs so as to enable the learner to reach the higher order thinking skills. Knowledge is constructed. It is not transferred from the teacher to passive learner. Now we come to teaching approaches. There are various kinds of teaching approaches for active learning. The frameworks that are used are inquiry-based learning, higher order thinking, cooperative learning, critical thinking, student-centered instruction, and Bloom's taxonomy of learning outcome. This we will see, Bloom's taxonomy of learning outcome, we will see in module 4. What are the approaches? Aligning the content with objectives on the basis of teaching approach, whether it is active learning, problem solving, project-based learning, or flipped learning, or a combination of all of these. So active learning is an umbrella term, and we basically need to ensure that there is active learning happening within the course.
Deep.
Problem-based learning, when you present a problem to the learner and you let them investigate and research about the solutions. Project-based learning, again, it could be a problem-based learning presented in the form of project, which could be an individual or a collaborative task. Then is flipped learning. Flipped learning is when the learner is presented with some content for passive learning. Then comes the active learning, wherein during the live session, the learner can brainstorm ideas and discuss whatever they've already studied without wasting time on what to study and how to study. All that is already presented to the learner. And after the session, the learner is made to check for understanding through higher order assessments and activities. And lastly, there is interdisciplinary approach, which again can relate to all the previous approaches that we have talked of. So there could be an activity, a project-based activity that you've given to your children to work on, for example, about global warming. Create a skit on global warming. Now, this will involve various kinds of skills. A, theater, B, language, and 3, the science phenomena. In interdisciplinary approach, you always have to remember what is the point of focus. Are you actually trying to enhance the acting skills or the language skills or exemplify a science phenomena? What is it that is the focus? That always has to be kept in mind. So that was about the first session. Content creation. The first thing that comes is content selection. You need to select the content on the basis of prioritized learning. That is must know, need to know, and nice to know. What does a learner must know? That should be limited content within the module or the unit aligned with the objectives. Remembering not to overwhelm the learner with a lot of content. Next is need to know, which is less critical, but would be good if shared with the learner. So the quantum of need to know content can be less compared to must be known. And nice to know is basically some tips and tricks that you can add for a better understanding or analysis of the content. It adds substance, breadth, and interest to the content. So probably you can add it as a call out or as a certain other components onto the lesson plan. When it comes to content creation, first of all, you need to add an activity to get to know your learner. There should be an icebreaker where you can get to relate, or the learner can get to relate to you as an instructor. It could, and also to the platform on which they are going to study. So it could be an introductory video about you and the platform and the course. It could be a virtual tour, highlighted labels, or step-by-step guide, depending on how you feel comfortable sharing with your learner. Let them get familiar with you and the platform in the very beginning. Next is the activities. Choose the activities that you want your learners to have. It could be individual or group work, project-based work, or online discussion forums for interactive learning. Next is teacher-learner interaction. This is very critical because you should be available to the learner and the learner should be able to confide into you. They should not be afraid in trying to approach you. So be accessible to your students through various modes. It could be an email or a telephone or a WhatsApp group or a social media channel, whatever you are comfortable with, but keep yourself open to multiple modes, not just one. Live session. Practice in remembering the lecture material before you join in for the live session. You should not seem to have lost. Visual aids help a great deal. Use mixed up videos, graphics, or infographics. Make a connection between the previous, present, and next that is the future sessions that you are going to hold, because that will help them relate in a flow with what is going on as in a course. It should not sound like a standalone webinar where there is no connectivity between the previous and the future sessions. How would you enhance the effectiveness of a live session is using keywords on the first presentation slide, because that helps to summarize what is going to be covered up during the session. State the educational intent at the beginning. Change demands on the student every 10 to 15 minutes to ensure attention. Avoid non-stop lecturing and note taking. For active learning, what all kinds of activities can you plan are pre-planned questions. So while you are taking a live session, you can segment it according to subtopics in 7 to 10 minutes of segments, and then ask pre-planned questions so as to ensure that they are attentive and they are present in your session. Ask surveys. Ask them to fill in a survey during the session itself. Then are guided lectures, when the students will listen to you for n number of minutes without taking notes, and at the end they will recall and reconstruct whatever they have learned. How would they demonstrate what they have learned depends again on the activity that you want them to do, whether in the live session itself or after the live session. Immediate feedback quiz. So they are listening and observing, and then they apply whatever they have observed and they get an immediate feedback. This is a quiz available in Moodle wherein you can give them immediate feedback. Storytelling. This is, we all know, it is a very good way wherein the learner relates to what is happening. Short writes, 1 to 3 minutes speaking assignment, focus on a question. Students, rather than the instructor, summarizes the key points of the entire session or part of it. Focused listing, ask the students to create a list in response to a specific question. Outline, provide students with an empty or partially filled outline and ask them to fill in the blanks in a limited time. Attendance, how would you ensure that they are present in the session? A is to have a poll. Ask questions and let them poll for the answers. Use multiple choice questions, word clouds, ask an open answer. This will help you regain their attention during this live session. Then comes the discussion with students. Always discuss in a first person experience. Give them individual tasks with review. Case studies are factual account of human experience, which the learner will always become very curious to read and learn more about and research about. Visual studies, where you can use graphics, videos, podcasts, and it can be used for interdisciplinary learning. When you run short of ideas what to teach, suppose you're a language teacher and you want to teach language, but what topic would you talk about or give an assignment about? So you can use interdisciplinary learning. Suppose you pick up a topic from geography or science and you ask them to work on it. Role play. Together, learners can explore feelings, attitudes, values, and problem-solving strategies. Structure the unit. Form a connection between the previous and the next unit that you are creating. Clarity. Separate the activities with clearly defined instructional objective. Activities should not be spilled over to another activity. It should be within its confines, because you will have to cater to instructional objective of every activity that you're providing them with. Inclusive environment. Practices that reflect high values with respect to both diversity and inclusiveness. Delivery methods. Use multiple accessible instructional methods that are accessible to all the learners. Information resources and technology. Content is, make sure that the content is engaging. Regularly assess the student progress using multiple accessible methods, and accommodate those whose needs are not met by the instructional design. There should be a scope of accommodation for those. So my instructional designing was to have regular live sessions. But if somebody is not able to attend a live session, then they should not feel left out. Finally, give learner support, connect to the learner, and consider an international audience when you're teaching online, because they can come from varied backgrounds and cultural differences. The content and platform should be flexible in use, simple and intuitive, perceptible information. There should be tolerance for error, size and space for approach and use. Especially, there should be tolerance for technical errors when you're teaching online. So it could be some error with the platform or the tools that you are using. Consider what students need to absorb, apply, evaluate such content. What all do they need to do? And give learners less time reading the content and more time in interpreting, analyzing, or applying that content through the activities. Most importantly, all activities need to be clearly linked to the stated learning outcomes of the course. If learning outcomes are focused on skill development, then the activities should be designed to give students opportunities to develop or practice such skills. So that could be project-based learning. Finally, this ends the session, not the session, but the PPTs. Now I will share with you Trello. Can you see it here?
Yes.
Yes, it's visible.
All right. So I have 4 courses: Ella, Laura, Maria, and Diago's course. Okay. And all 4 have the similar board, that is the productivity workflow. This was a template that I copied and then I modified it according to our needs for the course. What you can do is, if you feel you want to add, how this works is, basically there is a board. A board is, you can consider it as a register. Okay. It will have subsections, and each subsection, under each subsection, you can add cards. So here, as we have ideas to try, if you feel you have an idea to try, just add a card, enter the title, click on that card, and you will see all these options where you can add a description to what is there in your new idea. You can add a checklist if you want. Some label. Label is basically when you give importance to what, how important is this idea that you want to work on. Okay. Then is a checklist. Give a title to the checklist. Suppose PBL. Then you will have to add an item. Add an item, let's suppose beginning, intermediate, and expert. So these are the 3 levels of project-based learning that you can think of. Okay. And then you will have to create the details of all these activities that you are planning. All right. Now that I'm done with this, I have closed it. Okay. Next is the number 1 priority for the day. So you can decide what is your priority for the day. What are the upcoming priorities? Suppose this is the upcoming priority and I have important aspects of the course. That is what I want to work on today. So you can just click and drag it to the number 1 priority of today.
Wow.
Yeah. So that becomes your priority for this day. And
This is awesome.
Yeah, yes, it is. Oh, goodness. Wow.
And this, when you click on this, then you can see what did you intend to when you thought of writing of the important aspects of the course. So then you can probably have a checklist within this, and then you can start working on the checklist. You can also specify a due date. So suppose you have a checklist as I added here. Okay. Then you can add a due date that I want to finish off this entire checklist by, suppose, 3rd of June. And set a reminder. So you will get a reminder from on your email and save that this activity is due. Okay, now I have done the beginning part. So it will be highlighted as completed, and you can add more items whenever you want. So you can edit and modify. And now that I'm working on this, I want to move it to in progress. This is what is in progress right now. Next, we come to blocked. These are the activities. This is basically a template that had these blocks, but I've modified them according to our needs. So now in this blocked, my learning outcomes are blocked for now, because till the time I've completed my core content creation, I can't work on learning outcomes specific to each module. And I also cannot work on review till the time my course is complete. So this will remain in the list till the time the others have been completed. And once you finish off a task, then you can add that here in the done section. Okay. And you can add another list if you want. You want to add something more. So add another list, give it a title, and then start adding cards within it. This is a new list, suppose. And within this, then you can add a card. Okay. This is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically a template that I have created for you for your course, and you can modify that according to you will have to actually, because you will have your specific ideas, specific things that you want to work on, and you are looking forward to work on. Okay. So we will keep a track of the entire course that you are working on throughout the week, not just that we meet on the weekend and we talk about it. That won't help, because now that you will be creating the course content, it will require you to work intensely, keeping everything in mind.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like the checklist, I mean, what would I be putting in that checklist, for example?
It could be just anything. Suppose I have a checklist that, okay, checklist. I have a checklist that I have to create module 3. Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And in that, I have to create the lesson, then schedule the live session, and so on,
No,
or
wow.
add a quiz. So this will just help you to, as a reminder, what all you have thought of. And when I will be creating module 3 in my course, I will be writing the content. Then I will cross-check what all I have thought of doing in module 3. And then I can strike it out. Once it is done, I can just come back and say that I have done this. So it's complete.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to delete it, just go there and delete. And whatever activity you are doing will be shown here inside the activity for specific card, or else you can go to show menu, and here you will see the activity. What all I have done or what all you will be doing, it will be presented here.
Okay.
So you can actually share, like once you get familiar with this, you can actually use this for teaching in your course as well with your learners.
Okay, and throughout the week, we should be like posting every single thing, following that flow.
As
right?
you like. Probably not today, but tomorrow you pop up with some idea. So go and add it in the ideas list. Then you are working on a module, then write about it in the in progress list, right?
Okay.
So as you go on working, so you will keep on adding content. This is just the outline of your entire course development project.
Great.
Good
And
question.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Here is module 2, the support forum. These are the 2 slide shares that we've just checked. You can go through them. These are 2 forums where you need to add a discussion and reply to one another person. Why it is important to reply to one another person is because, you will be doing a peer review of these courses. So whatever you are developing will be reviewed by somebody else. So it's good to, understand each other's thought process and, get to know each other. So that will be a healthy way of, collaborating, I think. That's why just do that. And then is the assignment. Here is the template for module 2. This is a Google Doc, okay? And this you can copy in your own Google document and add the values in the description.
As you create content by the end of the week,
You should be ready with all these
details.
In the description, I have just added some values for your reference. For example, technology requirements, you need to specify hardware and software technology requirements for your course. Prerequisite for the course, suppose you are teaching a school curriculum, so previous grade would be the prerequisite or any proficiency level that you're expecting. So depending on that, just check these and remove these values, add your own.
Okay.
Okay. That's about this session.
Okay, thank you, Harshita.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you a
very
lot.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you,
in.
Diego and Maria
Thank
too.
you.